You're very welcome along to the Matchbook Weekend Football Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, and joined as ever by Mark O'Haire and Adrian Clarke. A lot of talking points over the last week, 10 days. The football news cycle never stops, but we have a lot of good Premier League games to look forward to this weekend, and that will be our main focus. A quick direction or point in direction towards our YouTube channel. We're very close to 6,000 subscribers. We're at 5.93 at the moment. That final push there to try and hit 6,000 subscribers. If you take 2 seconds and you aren't already subscribed to the channel, it's completely free. You'll see all our betting content. It's the best no-cost way of supporting the podcast. And also check out insights.matchbook.com. Very popular website recently, particularly over the last few months. You can get a full recap of all our podcasts, including the football podcast. So Mark and Adrian's picks will be there from Friday afternoon. So check that out. That's insights.matchbook.com. And last thing, to stay tuned for our podcast Bet Builder money back special. It will be on the Arsenal versus Manchester City game, which is where we start at the Emirates Stadium. And we'll take a look at the betting that we currently have on matchbook.com before bringing the guys in. Arsenal are 2.1 or 11 to 10 trading right now, Friday morning. Man City 385 with the draw 365. Both teams to score is 172. The Asian handicap line is basically giving City a half goal head start. That's City double chance at 187. And the total for this game currently stands at 2.5. Adrian, might start with you on the Arsenal. Being a busy week all around in the news cycle, but looking forward to this game. When you looked and sat down and looked at the prices, were Arsenal a little bit big to you when you first looked?
Yeah, I mean, they've been trimmed in, haven't they? I think when I first saw it, it was 2.16. It's now 2.1. So there's a little bit of movement there. No, I think it's about right. I think the price is probably fair. You won't make Arsenal odds on, I don't think, against Manchester City, even though this isn't the old Manchester City. It's still not an easy game to win. But I do fancy Mikel Arteta's side quite strongly, really. It means an awful lot, this match. I do think in the context of the season, it is a must-win in terms of the title race. And if Arsenal were to win it and win it well, then, you know, it will get Liverpool thinking, and it'll apply a little bit of pressure. So I think the team will be really fired up. Obviously, the obvious reasons is that there's a sort of brewing rivalry. What happened at the Etihad won't have been forgotten. Certainly not by Arteta with Haaland and the whole stay humble nonsense. City got out of jail really in that game. And I think Arsenal, there'll be a real determination from Arsenal to sort of make them pay. And it doesn't mean that they will, but I think they're good enough to do it if they play aggressively and play smartly. Because this City team is still aging. It's still lacking real athleticism in the middle of the park. And I do think that Arsenal can overpower them in that area of the game. Definitely through Declan Rice. I think he's going to be a big player in this. It's for me, it's all I look at the game tactically. I see City's main threat coming from longer balls over the top to either the fullbacks or Haaland. They'll look to isolate Haaland, won't they? But what Arsenal have that a lot of teams don't have is Saliba and Gabriel, and I think that they're as capable as anyone of handling Haaland in those 1v1s. City have gone really bold lately with the sort of two fullbacks wide, Foden and Marmoush coming in field, and Haaland. So like five up front, really, when they have the ball. I tell you what, if Arsenal can then bang win the ball in the middle of the park when they're building it up, they're light. They're light down the spine of the pitch, especially with Kovacic and Bernardo and Gundogan. They're not the quickest, are they? So I think Arsenal can really make hay on turnovers in the game. And yeah, I just think, look, unbeaten in 13, Arsenal, too many draws in there, left a few points on the table through various reasons. I just think Arsenal are going to be massively pumped up for this. The only caveat, the only thing that there are two reasons why, there's this little cloud of doubt, and that is it's City, and they have a lot of quality, and B, City from this time of the year onwards are usually amazing, aren't they? I mean, they've lost just one, I read, of their last 40 Premier League matches played from this stage to the end of the campaign. 133, drawn 6. I'm assuming that's over 2 or 3 seasons. Quite remarkable. But I just don't think this is this is the City. I don't think they're back. I think the fragilities are there for Arsenal to expose them. And if Arsenal play to their potential and don't do anything silly, they should win this game. So I'm just going to back them. I'm going to back them. 2.1 is the price. They are unbeaten in the last 4 against City, including the Community Shield. City haven't had a lot of chances against Arsenal of late. I think Arsenal can dominate the game and win it.
Okay, Arsenal 2.1, and Adrian started off not sure on the price mark, but did eventually get there with the case. Did you have a similar journey there? Because you look at it, you go, yeah, Arsenal are probably the most likely winner here. They probably will win the game, but maybe something stopped you from maybe backing the win.
Yeah. I think the prices are fair enough, really. I didn't really have Arsenal shorter or anything like that, so I can't really sort of disagree with where they're at. If I had to choose between the 3 match results, I would be with Arsenal. I was with Arsenal, but I'm just going to approach this a bit more pragmatically. Adrian talked about the draw bias in recent Arsenal matches in particular, and there's a few more factors I think at play, but clearly I prefer to be with them than Man City. We're able to rest and rotate a lot of players going away to Girona in midweek. Man City had that must-win match where for 45 minutes, I thought they were not quite terrible, but not far off it, actually, in a must-win game. No shots on target and allowing Club Brugge to sort of run through them at will in counter-attacks and transitions. We've sort of seen that story many times already this season. And yes, I'm still not convinced. And I've heard a lot of people in the press talking about how Man City are kind of getting back to where they're at and sort of talking about their Premier League form, but sort of failing to mention the opposition they've had during that sort of upsurge in league form, which I think is quite key, actually. And still, they do not convince me away from the Etihad whatsoever. There still is a fragility about them. I think we actually saw that in the first half against Chelsea last weekend as well, until sort of Chelsea took their foot off the throttle and allowed City back into the game. But away from home, it's 8 defeats in the last 12. The 2 wins in that 12-game sample came at Leicester and Ipswich. Brentford kind of pummeled them for a lot of that 2-2 draw at the G-Tech. Palace held them at Selhurst. So they've conceded 2 goals more in 10 of the last 12 away. They've conceded at least 3 big chances in 6 of the last 8 Premier League matches, home or away, which just highlights the issues, really. And Opta had a stat this week about the fact that 40% of the minutes played by Man City players in the Premier League this season have been played by players aged 30 or older. And it looks that way. They do look an old and tired team, particularly in the middle of the park. So that's an area, as Adrian's outlined, could be a real area of force for Arsenal in this game. And they've really relished the matches against Man City in recent meetings, as well, as Adrian's alluded to. So I thought they were very good actually in the reverse game, despite having that red card, and very unfortunate not to get more out of that match. So yeah, I know there's no Saka, but having Gabriel and Saliba back at centre half, I think, is a huge thing for Arsenal, and I think that sort of defensive solidity will allow them to get a positive result in this game. But I'll be a bit more pragmatic here. I'm going to back Arsenal double chance, and I'm going to back bookings in this game. So going back to Man City, have lost 4 of 6 trips to the top half this season. Last season they won just once at the top 6, and they lost 2 of 3 trips to the top 4. So they're not used to picking up positive results in these sorts of fixtures, not just this season, but over the past 18 months or so. Chuck in defeats at PSG, Sporting, Juventus in the Champions League as well. They are very much beatable. So it's understandable why the market is in favour of Arsenal here. But yeah, there is an edge to this match now, after not just what happened in the reverse game, but in previous seasons. I went over the last 20 meetings between these two across all competitions, and there's been at least 40 booking points in 14 of those. That even includes a Community Shield meeting. But if you look at the Premier League, it's 40 booking points or more in 14 of 17 head-to-heads. There is bad blood between the two. Arsenal are averaging 2.39 cards in the Premier League, Man City 2 cards per game. And there's been quite an interesting refereeing appointment here. It's Peter Banks. It's a huge match for him. He's not normally accustomed to these big games. He has already hit 40 booking points or more in 69% of his 16 games this season, 50 or more in 56%. Averages about 45 booking points per game. So kind of combining Arsenal double chance and over 39.5 booking points gets us a 1.82 shot. And the reason why I'm not quite there on Arsenal winning the match in terms of my actual best bet here is they've only won twice against the top half in the Premier League this season. There has been a lot of draws in that match, so it just kind of protects me against a repeat of what happened against Aston Villa, for example.
Yeah, say what you want about the experienced officials in the Premier League, but I was very surprised by that appointment. Just what you said, Mark. I'm not surprised. I can't remember a big game he has refereed, and this is as big as it gets really in the Premier League. Mark's gone Arsenal double chance. over 39.5 booking points and 182. Adrian going for the Arsenal win at 2.1. So take your pick. But we're going to do our £10 podcast bet builder money back special. Back this with Matchbook's bet builder. We can combine the two, increase the booking points a little bit. So Arsenal win and over 49.5 booking points. That's 5 cards throughout the game. 3.0. You're getting a 2-to-1 shot. You get your £10 money back as a free bet Monday morning if that bet loses, and you bet that with Matchbook. So yeah, we'll move on to probably the biggest game of the weekend, if you want to be for real here, lads. It's Bournemouth versus Liverpool. Let's take a look at the betting. Bournemouth are 4.9 underdogs to Liverpool are 172. The draw is in and around 7-2, just a bit bigger than that, at 4.6. Both teams to score, yes, 155. The Asian handicap line sees Bournemouth get a 3/4 goal head start at 2.08. More of that in a second. The total here is 3.5. Unders at 176. Mark, might start with you here. Bournemouth, you guys nailed it in terms of being on the right side against Nottingham Forest, but on the wrong side of the goal line. It was like you got it so right yet so wrong. I mean, Bournemouth were absolutely sensational. I can't remember 2 back-to-back performances that good in the Premier League for a team like Bournemouth, not being disrespectful.
No, it's. I thought that win against Newcastle couldn't have been superseded, but they were astonishingly good against Forest, and they're doing it all without missing a dozen players or so. If you look at the bench that they've had to field in both of those fixtures, I've never heard of half of the players. They're really down to the bare bones. They're running very, very hot at the minute, it must be said. Their conversion rate has been off the charts. If you look at the XG generated, they are outshooting it by a long, long way in those last couple of fixtures. But I guess that's just positive variance going in their favour, because throughout the most of the campaign, they were creating tons and tons of great opportunities, producing great underlying metrics, but not often getting the results. Whereas they're running into form now, and those kind of balls are going in the back of the net. But yeah, I think they're a reasonable price this weekend. I know Liverpool left the big hitters at home for the PSV game, which was a wise decision considering their sort of busy schedule, involved in all the cup competitions as well. Got the Merseyside derby coming on the horizon soon, but they obviously command a huge amount of respect considering what they've achieved this season. They are absolutely fair odds-on favourites, but that sort of 170-ish area that they're in at the minute doesn't really appeal to me here at all. The reverse game, they did beat Bournemouth 3-0 at Anfield back in September, but it was not a 3-0 game at all. Bournemouth had 19 shots in that game. The shot count ended 19-all. They were very, very good, but still managed to lose by 3 goals. But we've seen them now at the Vitality beat both Arsenal and Man City. Chelsea won here, but they definitely did not deserve to on the balance of play during that game. Forest we've seen but annihilated by Bournemouth. Newcastle was smashed up a fortnight ago. So I looked at the underlying data surrounding some of these Bournemouth performances. So they played 7 games against the current top 6. Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Chelsea, Forest, Newcastle. They've returned 4 wins, 3 draws, 2 defeats. They've generated 15.3 expected goals and allowed just 12.3 expected goals. They've won the XG battle in 6 of those 9 games against the top 6, including all 5 of their fixtures against the top 6 teams at the Vitality. So they're absolutely, they're on merit at the minute. They're unbeaten in 11 now. This clash, they've been the best team in terms of points earned over that particular period, 7 wins, 4 draws. And as I say, they've done it despite that injury list. I just love them going forward at the minute. Dango Atara, Justin Kluivert, these kind of floating, formidable forwards who just can't stop scoring in midfield. I think Tyler Adams has been hugely influential since his return, alongside Ryan Christie, sort of adding that lungs and legs and tenacity. And they just unsettle sides, don't they? And we've seen this with Iraola now. He's gained a reputation in Spain with Rayo for, toppling the big boys with his style and with his approach. And I think this will be an uncomfortable afternoon for Liverpool. So rather than back Liverpool at 172 right now, we can actually back Bournemouth at 1.8, so a bigger price with a +1 start, and that is much more appealing to me. So Liverpool need to win this game by 2 goals or more for our bet to lose. If Liverpool win by just 1, we get our stake back. So I've almost got more on side backing the home side with a +1 start at a better price than backing Liverpool to win away from home at Bournemouth. So they have only lost 5 Premier League games all season, and they've only lost 14 times in 50 Premier League games going back since November 2023, 3 of which came in the final 3 games of last season, when I think you could probably excuse teams were just tailing off into mid-table. So I think there's a lot going here for Bournemouth. I think this will be a difficult afternoon. Liverpool might well win it, but I don't expect them to win it comfortably.
Okay, good case for Bournemouth on the Asian handicap. Yeah, it's hard not to be excited at the moment looking at the Premier League top 4 race. Normally, Adrian, it's now a top 5 race. So Bournemouth Forest, it's really 5 from 8 teams. I mean, one of them is probably or could easily sneak into that top 5.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it's there for Bournemouth and Forest, of course, if they can regroup after that sort of damaging 5-0 loss. But yeah, no, Bournemouth are flying. It's the one fixture you don't want at the moment. Bournemouth away. It's as tough as it gets. And yeah, look, the numbers speak for themselves. If you make a mini table of the top 7 this season, Bournemouth are top of the matches, that they play against each other. It's remarkable, really. And you also need to factor in that they've had 9 matches against the current top 7. Whereas, Liverpool, City, Newcastle have had 7, Arsenal have only had 6. So, they've got a lot of their toughest fixtures out of the way. Bournemouth can ruffle feathers. There's absolutely no doubt about that. I'm so glad that Mark brought up that game at Liverpool. They were picked off 3-0, 3 full length of the pitch, sort of breakaway goals from Liverpool, just playing around the press. Brilliant goals, absolutely superb the way they navigated Bournemouth's press. But over the course of that match, Bournemouth gave them hell, basically. And I've written a piece on this, or previewing the game for the Premier League website if anyone wants to go and have a look. But I'll give you a little sneak peek in terms of that last match. The 19 shots is true. That's the most anyone's had against Liverpool, home or away, this season. They had 12 shots inside the box, the most of any team against Liverpool, home and away, this season. They had 6 shots on targets, the most at Anfield. They had the joint most corners, 9. And only one team's had more touches inside the opposition box than Bournemouth managed that day against Liverpool, home and away. And that's Arsenal at Emirates Stadium, just 1 extra touch, And then you're looking at turnovers, pressures resulting in a turnover, the most at Anfield this season, 3rd most overall. Final third turnovers, the 3rd most overall against Liverpool this season. And transitions reaching the penalty area, which I think is a really key stat here. They had 8 of them, Bournemouth, in that game. It's more than anyone managed at Anfield all season. It's the 2nd most against Liverpool during the campaign overall. Bournemouth are stylistically good enough to cause Liverpool problems. Doesn't mean they're going to win the game, but they definitely can. And they certainly can ruffle the feathers here. So, yeah, look, Liverpool will be nicely rested, etc. They've got great quality, but I can see Bournemouth certainly scoring. Another factor I talk about in the piece is maybe attacking down the left. Bournemouth are very good down the left with Kirkes and Semenyo, who played there the other day. But Utada, who's sort of playing up front nominally, most of this season he's played off the left. So I think that whoever plays right back, whether it's Trent or Conor Bradley, they're going to be, in for a tough afternoon. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this game. I think it's going to be a cracker. I think that Bournemouth can at least get a draw. So I'm going to back them a little bit like Mark, but I'm going to be a touch bold. I'm going to go Bournemouth plus 3/4 at 2.08. So if Bournemouth win, we get paid out. If they draw, we get paid out in full. But if they lose by 1, instead of getting the whole of our stake back, we'll get half of it back. And I'm okay with that. I just think, I think Bournemouth are live runners here, and it'll be fun to back them.
Yeah, let's lock in. It's the Asian handicap line set 206 mark plus 1 at 1.8. If you'd like that one, we will move on to 3 o'clock kickoff. Another one that is at Everton hosts Leicester City. Big 6-pointer here when you look at the table. Everton 185 favourites. Leicester 4-1 or 5.0. The draw 11-4 or 3.75 on Matchbook. Both teams to score is basically a flip them. Yes, marginal favourite at 197. And the Asian handicap line will see Leicester get a 3/4 goal head start at 188. So yeah, Mark, root fan history. They got that sensational second half victory against Tottenham Hotspur. If they manage to win this game, they bring Everton right back into this relegation battle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't write them off, actually, which is saying something because I do not rate Leicester whatsoever. But this is more based on Everton's team news, and Everton's price, I just think, is absolutely rank this weekend. 185 odds on. Not for me, thanks. Yeah, I feel a bit sorry for Sean Dyche. He must be sort of fuming seeing what's happened at Everton since he's left, because Moyes hasn't changed a huge amount, really, sort of bits and pieces, but back-to-back wins to send Everton, 7 clear of the relegation zone with a game in hand. They look fantastic against Tottenham, in fairness. In Brighton, they had to really ride their luck for the most part. But they've accumulated just 14 shots across those 2 games and scored 4 goals, won both, conceded just twice, which was sort of Spurs consolations. And they've allowed 1.9 expected goals. So defensively, they've been relatively rock solid, but we've known that about Everton throughout the season. But they've not been overly convincing in the final third. They're still sort of defending a little bit deep, still sacrificing possession, but really hounding teams on the edge of the box and trying to force them to shoot from distance, or just trying to stop the crosses into the box. And I think Jake O'Brien's finally been given an opportunity and impressed in the side. They've looked a lot more comfortable and confident soaking up pressure as well, and quite effective on the counter-attack. Lindstrom's also been finally sort of released off the shackles as well, and he's looked quite good. And Jai's always going to be a threat in forward areas. So there is renewed sort of hope and freedom about them. But ultimately, I just look at the injuries. Calvert-Lewin, who was so influential against Spurs, is now missing again. That's a big blow. With Broja missing, there's little else but Beto up front, and he doesn't look up to scratch for the Premier League. Dwight McNeil is still out. That's one of the big sort of creative linchpins. And Mangala's missing as well now. I think his influence in midfield will be a big blow. He's been a really sort of positive signing for Everton. So whilst I don't rate Everton, I don't rate Leicester. I don't rate Everton at 185 to win this game. I think you've got to be, balls of steel to trust them at odds-on quotes against any team in this league. And Leicester do rank in the bottom 3 for almost every major metric across the last 8 games, of which they've lost 7 of them before that win against Spurs. But they've had quite a tough schedule, in fairness. I looked at those 8 games: Spurs, Liverpool, Newcastle, Man City, Villa, Palace, Fulham. So I'm prepared to give them and Van Nistelrooy a bit of leeway in that sample and in that data. Vardy's obviously more than capable of getting a goal against any opposition. El Carnous is now being given an opportunity as well. He's a cracking footballer after a spell in Belgium. So yeah, Everton for a while now have actually been very trustworthy when hosting sort of bottom half strugglers. They've done so again this season, as they did last season, getting most of their results in these particular fixtures. But yeah, I just can't bring myself to be Everton based in this game, based on those prices. I was looking at boosting the price to 2.3 by including under 3.5 goals alongside the Everton win, and I just thought, I can't, no. So I'm going to take the result completely out of the equation. Opposed goals and support cards. As you say, it is a bit of a 6-pointer, and we've got a good refereeing appointment here, Darren Bond. He's averaging 53.46 booking points per game in his 13 fixtures. He has produced at least 4 cards in 12 of those 13 games. Everton are averaging 2.27. They've hit 2 or more in 77%. Leicester averaging 2.43. They've hit multiple cards in 70% of their games. So to get over 39.5 booking points alongside under 3.5 goals comes in at 190. And I think that's a much more palatable play than having to sort of trust Everton at odds-on quotes.
Okay, that's 1.9. Adrian, I was laughing when Mark even brought up Jamie Vardy, because I watched that Tottenham Leicester game and Vardy was brilliant. He's 38 years of age. It's absolutely incredible what he's doing.
It is, yeah. He's still flying, and he doesn't want this to be his last Premier League season, does he? So he did plenty of determination on his part. And look, Everton are one of his lucky teams. He scored 7 goals, made 1 assist in his last 12 starts against Everton. It's a pretty good ratio, isn't it? He's terrific and still the best striker that they've got, which is mad, really. What I will say about Leicester, even though Mark doesn't rate them, it's hard. I can't sit here and say that they've been very good either, because they haven't. But the bench is looking all right. They got Buonanotte on the bench. I think he's a good player. Mafadidi is a talent who, may be struggling to impact games at Premier League level, but he's decent. You got Patson Daka on the bench as well. So they've got options to sort of change things up potentially in the second half of this game. I kind of found myself nodding at everything Mark was saying. But sort of unlike him, I'm prepared to sort of go with Leicester here. Even though, ultimately he bottled it, didn't he? He just went with the goals and the points. He talked the talk. I'm going to say Leicester double chance and under 3.5 goals. 2.63 is the price. I really like that. I think the injuries to Calvert-Lewin, Mangala, and Dwight McNeil are big. I also think David Moyes in this kind of game, because of that little 6-point cushion, I think he's going to play cautiously. And they might have more of the ball than usual as well, Everton. I never really fancied them when they're in that scenario. I just think Leicester will have been lifted so much by that win at Spurs, and I think that they can back it up. I do. I think if you can win at Spurs, you can win at Everton. The under 3.5 makes complete sense. 2.27 is the average goal count for Everton home games at Goodison this season. It's the second lowest in the Premier League. 16 of Everton's 22 games have gone under 3.5. For Leicester, it's 14 of 23, but still a good ratio. And wait for this. This is part of the reason I'm backing Leicester here. Against the bottom 8 this season, they're doing all right. Leicester City have been pretty good against their closest rivals. 1-3, drawn 4, lost just 2 against the bottom 8 all season. And away from home, unbeaten in all 4 matches away to teams in the bottom 8. So this is the kind of fixture, actually, Leicester have done all right in this season. I think they're going to do okay here. They might not win it. I think they can absolutely draw it. Leicester double chance and under 3.5, 263.
Seems a big price. I just can't believe Leicester haven't made the long shots here, just given the case from both of you guys. Mark giving out about Everton's price. So Leicester, 5 points. The way you're talking, I can just see them repeating that. And Jamie Vardy incidentally to score around the 3.6 mark with Matchbook, and that'll be getting some of my money, I think. I just love that performance against Spurs. I really did. Let's move on to Brentford versus Tottenham, and we'll go to Adrian first once we take a look at the betting, which currently has Brentford 2.2 favourites at Tottenham, who are 9-4 or 3.25 on Matchbook with the draw of 4.1. Both teams to score a very low price of 1.38 if you're backing that. Tottenham getting a quarter goal head start in the Asian handicap line, just above evens with 3.5 the goal line here. Very much 50-50 or close with overs, leading that at 192. Adrian, we spoke about Bournemouth and their injuries. So when you try and make the case for what Ange Postecoglou is doing at Spurs, and for example, I really liked that Europa League second half performance and some of the goals with the young players last night. But the excuses have to stop at some point, and you have to find a way of digging out results. Is this game stylistically, as you talk about, just set up for Brentford to hit them on the break?
Yeah, well, Brentford have got a dangerous attack, haven't they? And the Spurs have got a very depleted defence. I watched that game last night, and it was a brilliant story. With the 3 academy graduates coming on and scoring more started, but all scoring their first goals for the club. It was a wonderful story, and a real pick me up for the club and for Ange Postecoglou. But I think just on that, because you watched the game, the celebrations felt like a dressing room that's very much still with Ange Postecoglou. Would you go? Probably. I would say less Ange. No, I just think it's just any group of senior pros. If they see the kids come in and score, they're buzzing. They're absolutely buzzing. Those big smiles on faces. I don't think it's anything to do with Ange. If I'm honest, I'm not saying that they're against Ange. I'm sure that they like him. But, I mean, how is he still there is really the question you've got to ask. They've lost 13 matches. The same as Ipswich. I mean, the only reason he's still there is because of the injuries, and that is a big deal. Mickey van der Ven had a 45-minute run out, came off at half-time, looked fine. Son was brilliant in the first half. He completed 10 dribbles, which is just mad, really. And then he had a little breather. So he's someone to keep your eye on. He's in good form. But Dragusin did come off injured, which again means that they've lost another defender. So Van der Ven's back. But Dragusin, I very much doubt he'll be able to play in this game. I think you've got to treat Spurs as what they are here. And that's the sort of lower half side. That's what they are. Brentford and both teams to score has landed in 5 of 6 matches for the Bees at home to bottom half sides. It's landed in 7 of 8 games at home to teams outside the top 4. So, anyone outside the top 4 at home for Brentford, 7 of 8 times Brentford and both teams to score has landed. And at 3.2, I find that a really attractive bet. In terms of Spurs losses, the 13 of them, 9 have seen both teams score, including the last 4 in a row Postecoglou's side, so they don't have any issue scoring, but they're conceding multiple goals, aren't they? And remember, they've lost 8 of their last 10 in the Premier League. No Maddison, no Solanke. For me, they're excellent players. I'd chuck Kulusevski in there, and that's your top 3 sort of attackers, really, based on form this season. So, I fancy Brentford. Wisser and Mbeumo and co. It's the kind of game that I think they'll relish. They'll look to rough up, certainly, what I regard as a pretty weak midfield for Tottenham, and obviously at centre half outside of Van der Ven, or the back 4 outside of Van der Ven, the right side centre half and the left back, it's not ideal. So yeah, I just fancy Brentford to win here, but I do think Spurs can absolutely score. But I think Brentford can outscore them. 3.2 is a really, really nice price here.
That's Brentford to win, and both teams to score 3.2. Yeah, seen Dragonson, Mark, which was what looked like another muscle injury. I mean, I'm similar to you. I like what Ange is trying to do at Spurs, but yeah, another muscle injury. And I mean, that's been talked about a lot, training methods and not finding a way to have a plan B in a game like this, which they're just going to play into Brentford's hands here, judging by what Adrian was saying there.
Yeah, you'd think so. I want to give Postecoglou a small bit of defence here. I think what he achieved in his first season at Tottenham was remarkable, considering what he inherited, to finish 5th and have a really good crack at the top 4 after losing a record goal scorer with a brand new team, completely refreshing the club, and the mindset and the mood around the camp was outstanding, in fairness. And he's getting results playing an exciting brand of football. That was an achievement in itself, I thought, considering what he inherited. As I say, this season, obviously, the league form has gone awry quite spectacularly, and that is absolutely indefensible when you compare and contrast what the likes of Forest and Bournemouth and Brighton and Fulham and Brentford are even achieving. But Ange sort of did say at the start of the season he always wins a trophy. Spurs are still competing in 3 fronts in the cup competitions, and they're second favourites for the Europa League, which is obviously a route into the Champions League next season. They've beaten Liverpool in the Carabao Cup first leg semi-final. That's on the horizon next week as well. So that's actually in my thinking here as well, alongside what everything Adrian's saying as well. Is that going to be a priority now, that match next week? They're in the bottom 6 in the Premier League. They're not going to qualify for Europe via the league. The issue is they haven't really got enough players to rest and rotate. So you've got a tired and weary, fatigued squad having to go again and again and again. And yeah, they might well try and prioritise that match, but this is a difficult one. And look, there's been a huge market move for Brentford over the past fortnight. They opened around 270, I think, to win this game. Draw no bet was around evens on the opening show, but that's kind of collapsed really in the past fortnight based on Spurs' results. 6 defeats from 7 winless games since before Christmas. But it's the underlying metrics have gone awry as well. They've really started struggling in both boxes in the Premier League. And, Aaron said last week that 2 of his players probably shouldn't have played against Leicester because of the condition they are in. Now to lose Dragusin, when you get Mickey van der Ven back, it's just 1 step forward and 2 back, really. And this is a really tricky game against the Brentford side, who bagged a really creditable win at Palace last week, now only 2 points off the top half. The top goal scorers at home this season. You look at their recent record, yes, they're winless in 4 at home, but actually they've had some tough opposition. Their record at home to teams outside of the top 3, 7 wins, 1 draw, 0 defeats, 28 goals scored, but without a clean sheet in 13 at the GTEC. So yeah, Adrian's outlined all the numbers really. Brentford probably will score twice in this game. Spurs will contribute as well, absolutely. But that 3.2 price on Brentford to win and BTTS just looks it has to be backed really, based on everything we know about both these 2 teams. Can Tottenham really contain Mbeumo, Wisser, Damsgaard? I don't think so. There's pace, there's power, there's athleticism. A well-rested Brentford too against the Spurs side, who have struggled away from home all season. So yeah, 3.2 Brentford and BTTS.
Okay, yeah, seems a big enough price given all the guys I've outlined there. So that's 3.2 inside StatMatchbook.com. Full recap of all the picks picked here, as well as the Dublin Racing Festival this week, and amongst other sports on site. Any other bets? We'll start with you, Adrian. You have 2 selections, both from the Championship.
Yeah, I'm going to start Swansea against Coventry. Saw Swansea recently against Sheffield United. Good in the first half. Dropped off a cliff after the break, but the mood down there is really low. Actually, they've been on a bad run. Swansea, desperately in need of goal scorers, and the squad is light on them, really light. And the form has been poor. They got smashed, I think 5-1 at Norwich last time out. They're now winless in 4, lost 3 of those games. I think the mood with the ownership isn't very good at all, and the fans are kind of voting with their feet. The tendencies are down, and to rub salt into the wound, they've accepted a bid, the club, for their captain, Matt Grimes, very good central midfield player at Championship level, excellent on the ball, but also can put his foot in. He's really he's the beating heart of the Swansea side. Well, he's off. He's gone. It's not been rubber stamped yet. I suspect they're dragging their heels so that he can't face Swansea in this game. But he won't play for Swansea. I'm pretty sure of that, which is a blow for them. Cov are on a good run. They've won 3 on the spin, beaten 3 decent teams as well: Watford, Blackburn, and Bristol City. A nice balance to the team under Frank Lampard. He started to get the belief, I think, of the players now. And they're heading upwards. There's no doubt about that. I think they can go to Swansea and win, and it's a lovely price. 2.8 on Coventry to go there and to make it 4 on the spin. As I said, they're in form. The Swans are out of form, and the Swans have a dreadful record against teams in the top 8 so far this season. They've lost 8, drawn 2, won none against the top 8. And Coventry aren't in the top 8; they're just outside it. But I would class them as top 8 quality. They're only 3 points off, and they're certainly in top 8 form at the moment. So for me, Coventry should be probably a shorter price to beat Swansea, where morale is very low at the moment. So 2.8 is my selection there. The other one I want to head to is at Vicarage Road, Watford against Norwich. My selection is both teams to score. Pretty simple selection here. 1.87. Kind of surprised it's 1.87 because these 2 teams lead the way in the Championship for both teams to score this season. It's happened in 66% of Watford matches and 62% of Norwich matches. Neither team has a very good defensive record. Norwich have kept 4 clean sheets in 29. Watford have kept 6 clean sheets in 29. Look, in terms of matches at Vicarage Road, this bet's landed in 9 of 14 home games for Watford. Actually, in terms of Watford, 10 of their last 11 matches, full stop, have seen both teams to score land. And my sort of final number here is on Norwich. I've had 12 games against teams above them, of which Watford are no clean sheet. But they have scored in 8 of those 12 games. So, yeah, when you add it all up, I think that both teams to score feels like it probably should be a bit shorter than 1.87, which is why I've selected it.
Okay, that's Coventry to win it, Swansea 2.8, and both teams to score Watford and Norwich, which sounded quite appealing at 1.87. Mark, give us your second to any other bets, and you can lead in the Wolves one to the long shots later on. I won't give too much away.
Yeah, sure. One's probably a bit of an open goal, really, but I'm backing Rangers to beat Ross County and both teams to score. No, it's even money. Obviously, I posed Rangers in my long shot last week. They went 1-0 down early on at Dundee United. I thought, here we go. But they bounced back really emphatically, actually. Really impressive to win that game 4-1. Tannadice followed up with a really good win over Union Saint-Gilloise in the Europa League on Thursday night. So it's been a good week. Still don't think they're massively reliable outside of Ibrox, but at home, they are a real force. 11 wins from 12 unbeaten games at home in the Premiership this season, conceding just 4 goals. They've won 0 in 8 of those 12 games, including 6 of 8 when hosting teams in 6th and below. I think there's a real opportunity now for them to enhance that record against the Ross County side, who sit 3rd bottom, but have been really dreadful on their travels. Failed to score in 6 of 11 away, scored just 8 goals on the road all season. They've been thrashed 5-0 at Celtic, 6-0 at Ibrox already, and 3-0 at Dundee United. They're the top 3 teams in the Premiership right now. And if you drill into the data, it's no real surprise. I've got them bottom on away expected points, bottom for XG generated, just 0.44 per game from open play, which is pitiful, really, and just 10 big chances generated away from home. So that's pretty bleak, whereas Rangers are actually rivaling Celtic. If you look at the home data in the Scottish Premiership, they're rivaling Celtic and beating them across some of the major metrics. Actually, they've got a better XG supremacy record, a better XG conceded figure as well, just 0.56 per game at Ibrox, and they've allowed just 9 big chances in 12 home fixtures. Their last 5 visitors have been Aberdeen, Celtic, Kilmarnock, Dundee, and St Johnstone. So a complete spread of teams across the league, really. And they've combined to create just 1 expected goals in those 5 fixtures against Rangers. The cumulative shot count, 124-24. Shots on target, 41-6. And big chances read 24-1. That's really quite impressive considering Celtic are amongst those 5 opponents. So they're 1.17 to win, including both teams to score no or the win to nil, and you're getting even money, which is a great price. Then on to France. Ligue 1 is averaging 289 goals per game. 58% of games have seen both teams scoring. I think Rams against Nantes on Sunday should bolster those particular figures. BTTS is 186. Rams 5 points above the relegation playoff places. Nantes just 1 point above the bottom 3. But unsurprisingly, because of those positions, they've been pretty unreliable defensively. Both teams have managed just 3 clean sheets all season. Rams have conceded in 9 of their 10 at home. Nantes have kept just 1 clean sheet since August and have managed just 1 clean sheet on their travels all season. But 14 of their 17 games since August have seen BTTS pay out, as have 8 of their 10 away days. Rams only have a 6 from 10 hit rate at home for BTTS, but they have played 7 of the top 8 already. So it's been quite a tough schedule. But they've seen both teams score in 7 of their 8 games against the bottom half. They've scored in 14 of the last 18 as well. So they're well capable of getting on the score sheet in this game. But ultimately, it's a case of not trusting either defence in a match that both sides will see as a winnable opportunity. So both teams to score at 186 in that game.
Okay, that's both teams to score. Rams Nantes at 186 and Rangers, and both teams to score no at home to Ross County on Sunday at 3 o'clock. Long shots time, and no better man to start with than Adrian. Over 4.5 goals. Lille versus Feyenoord, wasn't it? And it ended up being 7 goals. So hope someone somewhere, if you did play on any further alt lines than that, let us know on the YouTube or on social media. So well done, Adrian. Bask in that glory and take it away with this weekend's.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, that was a good one. I did think it was more likely to be a 3-2 than a 6-1, but it doesn't really matter. Yeah, long shot. I'm going to go with the form team in League One, Leyton Orient. Got a big game coming up, haven't they, against Manchester City in the FA Cup. But they've not been distracted by that at all. They're top of the form table. 9 wins, 2 draws in an 11-game unbeaten run. Absolutely superb at the moment, Leyton Orient. Barely giving any goals away. They did in midweek, actually, at Exeter. They won 6-2. But that sort of bucked the trend. It's been sort of clean sheet wins the whole way. 12 clean sheets Leyton Orient have had in 15 matches. At home, 7 of the last 9 home games have seen my selection land, which is Leyton Orient to win, both teams to score no, and under 3.5 goals. So win to nil and under 3.5 goals. So what we're doing, we're back in the 1-0, the 2-0, or the 3-0. And of those 7 games, we've had 2 1-0ers, 2 2-0ers, and 3 3-0ers for Leyton Orient. They play Stockport, who are good. Stockport have actually won 3 in a row. So they're in decent form. But their away form is bang average. They've won 1 of their last 7. They've won 1 of 7 away games against top half teams. So they've just beaten 1 decent team away from home all season. And 6 of those 7 games have been under 3.5 goals as well. So Stockport on the road, not high scorers against the better teams, and tend to come out on the wrong side of it. So yeah, lump it all together. And I just think Leyton Orient are on here for another 1-0, 2-0 or 3-0 win, probably 1-0 or 2-0. So Leyton Orient, both teams score under 3.5 goals, comes in at 4.6.
That's both teams to score no, by the way. So Leyton Orient, both teams to score no, under 3.5 goals, 4.6. Can see it becoming part of the podcast stable diet if it does win this weekend, Adrian, that's for sure. Mark, when you guys make cases, for example, the Leicester, Bournemouth are being pro from both of you guys this week, I was probably already on that side before listening. Wolves, I've had the misfortune of sitting through Wolves the last 2 games. Not for me this weekend, but take it away.
Yeah, it's not really Wolves based at all. It's completely Aston Villa focused. But I want to be against Aston Villa. Do you remember back in the sort of late autumn, I was getting a social media troll who kept attacking me for opposing Aston Villa after Champions League games, saying that tiredness and fatigue, just I've invented it. It's not actually a thing. But I think anyone who's seen Villa play in recent weeks will know and agree that they've looked pretty exhausted at times. They did it at Monaco. They obviously started with a flourish against West Ham last weekend and then really faded. Even midweek against Celtic, they looked pretty gassed at times. So I was prepared to give them an opportunity against West Ham last week after a Tuesday-Sunday turnaround. That's not the case this week. They are playing Wednesday night and then playing Saturday and going away to Wolves, which is obviously quite a big derby match in that particular region. So this is not going to be easy. I think it's going to be a game where the fans are absolutely up against them at Molineux. And I think irrespective of Wolves' position right now, I would say a tired team facing a quick turnaround, travelling away for a derby match, that's undoubtedly a disadvantage. And something to consider as a real negative, actually. So seeing Villa at sort of around 2.1, 2.2, not an appealing price to me whatsoever. So I'm going to oppose them. They are 1 win, 2 draws and 3 defeats in league games immediately following Champions League duty. They are 2 wins, 6 draws and 4 defeats in weekend fixtures after a midweek match of some sort. They've won just 6 of the last 18 in the Premier League, and they've only won twice on their Premier League travels since August. Now, Postecoglou gets a lot of grief for Spurs' defence. They've conceded 37 league goals this season. Aston Villa have conceded 35 goals so far this season. I've actually got them 13th in expected points over the last 8 games. They've only won the expected goals battle in 3 of their 11 away games all season. So I do think they're vulnerable at these kind of prices. And then you go into the team news. Diego Carlos was sold. Bizarre move. I don't understand that when Pau Torres is still sidelined. Tyrone Mings picks up an injury last weekend. So they're down to the bare bones at centre-half. And then to make matters worse, Matty Cash goes off in the first half against Celtic and now looks like a serious doubt for the weekend too. So I'm not sure how they're going to set up defensively for this game. But data-wise, I think Aston Villa are opposable here. Emery's outfit have won just 6 of the last 18 Premier League games, as I say. And look, Wolves didn't quite have enough to hurt Arsenal last week. They do have plenty of concerns themselves, especially in defence. But I just think stack all that up together. And do I really want to back Aston Villa at 2.1-ish? Absolutely not. So I'm going to oppose them here. So you can back Wolves plus half a goal at a reasonable price. And as a long shot, Wolves to win and Aston Villa, both teams to score as well, which comes in at 5-1. Both sides have got a 7 from 11 hit rate in their respective home and away matches for both teams scoring. So to win on the nose is about 3.5-ish. If Wolves are going to win, I can't see them keeping a clean sheet. So we can bolster that price to 5-1, 6.0 by including BTTS.
Okay, so official play on Wolves plus half goal on the Asian handicap line. That's Wolves double chance effectively. 181 won't get a better price than that on the odds checker grid. And long shot Wolves and both teams to score at 5-1 or 6.0. Adrian, Monday night football, but not the Premier League for you. This game is going to be on ITV4, but it's not going to be a good one.
Well, I'm not saying it's not going to be good. I just think it could be tight.
How many good under 2.5 goals games has there ever been?
Yeah, it feels like an unders game on Monday night, Middlesbrough against Sunderland. So that's my best bet this week. 1.9 you can get on it. And I think if you can get that sort of price on a derby, it kind of, if you blind bet on most derbies around that price, I reckon you'd have a fair bit of joy. 4 of the last 5 meetings between Middlesbrough and Sunderland have seen under 2.5 goals land. It was 1-0 earlier on this season at the Stadium of Light to Sunderland. These are 2 really good teams, both probably going to be in the playoffs. I mean, this could be a playoff final, for example. So, yeah, this might not be the end of their rivalry this season. Middlesbrough have been a bit inconsistent, but they've usually turned up for the bigger games at home. They beat Sheffield United to 0 at home, low scoring game. They beat West Bromwich Albion to 0 at home, tight game. And they also drew 0-0 against Burnley at home. No surprise there. All Burnley games seem to end 0-0. When you sort of tot it all up, they've had 9 matches against the top 8 this season, Middlesbrough, and 8 of those 9 matches have seen 2 goals or less scored. So Michael Carrick sets them up not to get beat against the division's strongest teams. They're well organised. They've got good forwards, actually, Middlesbrough, even though one of them might be leaving. Emmanuel Lattelat is on his way, I think, to Atlanta in the MLS, which is a real shame for them. But they've still got good players, and they'll be competitive here. As for Sunderland, excellent team. But again, the last 3 away games, little pattern developing. The last 3 away games, really tight, low-scoring affairs. A grand total of 2 goals across those 3 away games, and their record against the top 8 this season is played 9, and 6 of those have seen under 2.5 goals land. So yeah, when you lump it all together with their record in this type of fixture and the fact that it's a derby, there's a lot riding it. Neither team will want to lose. I do see unders as probably the best play here at 1.9.
Yeah, and as someone who sat through last week's Championship Monday Night Football, I'd say a lot of listeners can relate and maybe might want to make a few quid under 2.5 goals, 1.9, Adrian's best bet. Mark, the opposite bet, essentially, in the Bundesliga. So take it away. There's going to be goals, over 2.5 on both teams to score. You can get decent prices if you find the right game.
Yeah, these are 2 really fun teams to follow, Eintracht Frankfurt and Wolfsburg. They play on Sunday. Looks like the most goal-heavy game to me across UK and Europe this weekend. So yeah, Omar Marmoush might have left Frankfurt, but they're still scoring without him. They've scored at least twice in their games since he was missing from the squad against both Dortmund and Bremen. Hugo Ekitike has really stepped up with 3 goals. He's having a great season, which is great to see after sort of a poor move to PSG. He'll be a big threat for this match against Wolfsburg, who I've featured a few times in columns and on the podcast this season under Ralph Hasenhüttl. Their matches are just bonkers, really, averaging 4 goals per game in the Bundesliga this season, which is quite astonishing in itself. 68% of their games have gone over 3.5 goals. 79% of their matches have seen both teams score. If you look at some of their results against the better teams, lost 3-2 to Bayern twice, were beaten 4-3 at Leverkusen, drew 2-2 with Stuttgart, beat Leipzig 5-1, lost 2-1 to Frankfurt in the reverse, beat Mainz 4-3, beat Gladbach 5-1, lost 4-2 to Bremen. So that's just a flavour of what they're capable of against the top half teams in the Bundesliga, which is absolutely anything, just goals really. So yeah, this bet is quite straightforward really. Overs and BTTS at 183. The 2 teams have each scored in all bar 1 of their collective Bundesliga matches so far this season. 28 of those 38 have seen BTTS. 6 of Frankfurt's 9 at home have seen BTTS and over 3.5 goals, let alone over 2.5. And Wolfsburg have got the same hit rate away, whilst 8 of their 10 league matches have gone over 3.5 goals against the top half team. So has to be goals. If there's not, I'm not going to say I'll resign from the podcast, but if this game ends 0-0, you can put me under a major warning for next time.
I was on a plane in America listening to you say that on a podcast when I was away, and I thought that just wouldn't happen under my watch. No way you'll let you. Well, thanks to Mark and Adrian. Mark, hope you enjoy the 6 Nations over the next couple of weeks. There is a small little mini break for around 10 days or so, maybe 2 weeks for the guys as we hit the FA Cup week. So enjoy this weekend's Premier League action. We'll be back, all going well, in a couple of weeks. Insights.matchbook.com. A quick reminder to check out there, and do help us get to that 6,000 subscribers, again, completely free, and the best no cost way of supporting what we do here. Appreciate all the interaction on the live stream. We'll chat to you in a couple of weeks. Bye bye.